has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. He's born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He has resided in the United States since 1997. Marcelo is the co-founder of the Conscious Living Spiritist Group in North Miami, where he serves as vice president of the board of directors. As an active supporter of the Spiritist movement, he is also the current president of the Spiritist Federation of Florida. As an active participant in the United States Spiritist movement, Marcelo currently serves as treasurer of the United States Spiritist Council and in the dissemination of Spiritist books in the United States and Canada. He represents Odyssey of America, an affiliated branch of the International Spiritist Council publisher in Brazil, as president. Marcelo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just prepare a few slides here. I don't know if my job is going to be easier because of Heather or difficult because she's a great speaker. But I'm very glad to be here and to have the opportunity to talk to you guys about the presence of the spirits in our daily lives. And I believe you guys have one right beside you. At least your guardian angel. I hope they're making company to you. So, but before we start our presentation, we first have to try to understand if you believe in spirits. I like the way Gary Schwartz sometimes do their lectures, like asking questions. Is there anyone that believes in spirits over here? Raise your hands. And I guess pretty much everybody believes in spirits. So I'm just going to place a few questions here for the ones that don't believe in spiritists, because you got to be like in the Medium's book on chapter 1, on the preliminary notions, we will see something like this. What did happen? Are there spirits? So, because sometimes we think like spirits are a part of a separate part of the creation. So they're like fantastic stories that when we're children, we believed, like they're like separate beings. But the spirits are simply us without a body. And I would like to place like the few questions that shows on the spirits, the Medium's book, on the first chapter, and it's something like this. Oops. So on the preliminary notions, it shows like, do you think that the being within us who thinks during earthly life no longer thinks after that? That if it does think, it no longer thinks of those who it has loved. So I saw Heather mentioning about his grandfather, right? And so it's kind of hard for us to think, like, since God is this infinite, just, and good, okay, now ends. You're going to put a wall here, and you're going to the grave and finish, and ends everything that you felt, that you're still feeling by your loved ones. So this is something that contradicts this kindness, which is God in all religions. Okay. So next slide.
I'm trying to figure it out. Okay.
Okay.
Next. Forward.
Okay.
Forward. Okay.
Thank you. So that if it does think of those whom it has loved it, nonetheless does not wish to communicate with them. Do you think? If I am a loving father or a loving mother, maybe next life, loving father this time, I don't have kids. But if I am a loving father and I pass away and I miss my son so much, Do you think it's possible, let's assume that, okay, I'm a good father, a good soul, good moral standards and everything, but my son, it's not like that much. It's like a little bad person as far as the society concerns. So it's simply, I am going to heaven and he's going to hell. So God will place a wall between me and him, and we no longer communicate. Sounds like more difficult to believe if God is like this. So that if it can be anywhere it wants to be, it cannot be right here beside us. So let's think in our beloved ones. Let's not think too much, because we are probably going to attract them. So that if it is right here beside us, it nevertheless cannot communicate with us. If they can't communicate with us, they can inspire us. They can whisper to us, of course, quoting. And we have this ability to exchange sometimes ideas, and sometimes we don't even understand why I'm having this kind of thought. So if we keep going, trying to think about this, how can we possibly consider this is a possibility? So Allan Kardec, thinking at the same line of thought, because he was already convinced by the presence of the spirits, when he asked the questions, when he compiled the first book, the Spirit's book, which has 1,019 questions, one of the questions, question 459, he asked the spirits, do spirits have any influence in our thoughts and actions? And the answer that came was, their influence on you in this regard is greater than you suppose, for very frequently it is they who guide you. Sometimes we think, hearing this, reading this question, we think like, oh, they guide us. It simply seems that we are at hands of the spirits. We are puppets in the hands of their spirits. But we are going to see in the slides ahead that this influence can be very much in synchronicity with the line of thought that we have. Because sometimes we can be influenced by the incarnate ones. Sometimes you have an opinion, and because a friend comes to you and says, like, Marcelo, maybe you have to go to the right direction, maybe left direction, and we pay attention, okay, he might be wrong, he might be right. So the same thing can be happening in the two realms of life. So it means, it depending of the moral standards that we have, the baggage that we carry on, we could be more or less influenced by these ones that simply pass away to another dimension. So we are immersed in a wave, in the ocean of many, many waves, because following the same question, following the next question, 460, we see, like, do we have our own thoughts plus others that are suggested to us? And the answer is, our soul is a spirit who thinks by itself. Nevertheless, you must have noticed that many thoughts occur to you at the same time with regards to the same subject, and that they frequently contradict one another. Well, they are always a combination of your own ideas and other spirits' ideas, and this is what renders you uncertain. You have several ideas within your mind, battling it out with each other. So this is something interesting, because what I mentioned before this slide, since we are immersed in this ocean of waves, let's think that we are simply a radio, AM, FM. When we try to find a station, a music, a news channel that we want to hear, we simply adjust the station and we try to capture this. It depending how emotional contents, how the sentiments, how we are feeling at that moment. Sometimes we are feeling betrayed by someone. Sometimes we are envy, we are jealous. We are feeling love, compassion, and we are forgiving others. And this establishes a sort of a mental emission, if I can use this. And this mental emission, because science already proved that when we think, we emit waves. This mental emissions got in synchronicity, got this, it captures, it's sort of like this radio. Then and we might be attracting entities, which are spirits without a body, that fuse the affinity with the same line of thoughts. If you guys like to dance, go to a ballroom, and you will see a lot of affinity. If you like to pray, you can go to a temple, to a church, or you simply can go to your room. When I say to your room, it means like, that's quiet, make silence, and try to emit this wave, asking for answers, so we can be influenced by many, many others. All the time, we are influenced by them. We can see in the presence of St. Francis of Assisi, when he asked, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. It means he was trying, because he was this sublime, humble being that were incarnated in the 12th century among us. Among us, maybe I was there, maybe you were there. And giving this example and trying to sensibilize each one of us. Can you imagine the sort of spirits, or the sort of entities that are surrounding this divine man that we call Francis of Assisi? Because he changed the course of the church. At least he tried a lot. His example lasts until nowadays. And now we have the Pope Francisco trying to imitate his steps. And we might be imitating him, not from the lips on, from the lips outside, from within. And we have also in the figure of Paul of Tarsus, when he found, and he mentioned, therefore, since we too are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us leave behind everything that hinders. This is in the letter of Paul, 12:1. And we see sometimes he felt a multitude of invisible beings were following me. Not because he was delivering beautiful speeches, convincing others, but they want to follow what kind of actions and what he feels and what kind of behavior he was doing, he was giving. Because we are very good in speaking, very good. But do you think sometimes we don't act accordingly? So let's go on. When a thought is suggested to you, it's like a voice speaking to you. Your own thoughts are usually those that occur to you at the first impulse. Actually, you should not concern yourself with such a distinction, and it is often more useful not even to know about it. You act more freely. If you make the right decision, you will act more willingly. If you make the wrong one, your responsibility will be greater. This is also in question 461. So how can we tell if a suggested thought comes from a good or an evil spirit? Study the matter. Good spirits always give good advice. And the confused one, I'm going to use this word, confused. The ignorant ones could be frivolous, could be inciting us to the wrong way. It depending on us. It depending on, we can see this in the political movement, the philosophical movement, in the scientific academy, hospitals, laboratories, in the Spiritist movement. Are we being influenced by the good ones? Are we following the steps of maybe St. Francis of Assisi? Or we are doing exactly the same pattern that we used to do long ago? And we are repeating the same pattern with the different carcass. Can I use this word? Maybe not. Yeah? So the question is, can we avoid the influence of the spirits who incite us to wrongdoings? Of course we can. Because they only attack the ones that open their hearts in a bad way. By that means, can we neutralize the influence of evil spirits? Yes, by doing good. And this is one of the most difficult things to achieve, because sometimes we think doing good It's simply to giving money to a charity, doing a good action. But doing good starts from within, because sometimes we hate someone. We desire bad to someone. We feel that we don't like someone, which is natural because it's the state of evolution that we are in. But can we, since we know all these details, at least from now on, cultivate this kind of behavior inside of us? Allowing these bad ones, that once in the future will learn that through this cycle of hatred, of vengeance, of bad behavior, will experience exactly the same that they are, because there's a law of cause and effect that rules the whole universe. So by doing good and placing all your trust in God, when we trust in God, it means no matter what words you use as a God, because you might be Muslims, Jewish, Catholics, Spiritists, we use many names to define God. So God is this infinite justice and goodness that rules the whole thing, and everything is in its place. And sometimes we mess up a little bit. We emit some kind of waves, as I said before in the beginning, but then when the end, life after life, we will learn. I hope I will learn one day. I'm still learning. Sometimes I make big mistakes, but I hope to learn one day. And that's why prayer is one of the most excellence that we can do in order to calm down ourselves in a quiet moment and try to establish a line of thought and paying attention what kind of feelings, of emotions, of sentiments we are feeling, we are having at that moment, because that moment we might be emitting some kind of waves. They are going to attract other entities. They are simply thinking the way we are, and we are going to potentialize, to add it up on top of this, feeling different. Sometimes I remember one day that I was feeling something about someone. Someone did something bad for me long ago. Well, in the morning I was feeling like this. I don't like this guy. I'm simplifying the question. By the end of the night, I was hating him. I want to get this guy, because my heart was open, my mind was open to simply adding it up. And now that I have the Spiritist knowledge, at least a little bit, I can imagine how many companies are coming to me. Okay, yes, kill him. By the end of this day, I could see, of course, I'm not a medium like this, okay? But I can imagine how many spirits were surrounding me, instigating me. Yes, he's a bad guy. You have to hate him. We do this sometimes. To end our topic today, and I would like to tell a story in a very practical example that I heard from a very close friend of mine. For those who already know the answer, know the story, forgive me, but it gives a very practical and very clear example. How can we be influenced by the spirits? Wedding at Cana. I said, what this has to do with the topic? Well, this was the same question that a friend of mine asked him. Well, I'm going to read just to be very concise. I don't want to lose time. So, about 30 years ago, there was a group of people who would volunteer visiting a prison, taking the message of the good news in order to lift the spirit of prisoners there. I can imagine our friend Julio Carvalho, because this is his line of job. It was a very complicated place to be, as you can imagine. Once a month, they attend this place. In a determined moment, near the Christmas time, this friend of mine, who belonged to this group of volunteers, was scheduled to speak about something, and he could not, at that time, come up with anything. What can I say about this in this special moment, in the special time of the year? And my mind is empty. I don't have any inspiration. So, there was a man, one of the prisoners, who would never, ever participate in the works that they conduct, the volunteers. Never. And so thinking of this man and how he could touch his heart, he got up in the morning, it was a Sunday, and he said a prayer. It was a heartfelt prayer. And suddenly he heard a voice, loud and clear, in his mind. And the voice told him exactly this: you will tell the story of the wedding at Cana. And he thought it was a weird topic, considering it was near Christmas time, but he decided to do it anyway. So the wedding at Cana, for those doesn't know about the story, the wedding of Cana is that significant story in which Jesus turns the water into wine. And when there was none left at the wedding, he transformed water into wine. So he decided to tell the story of wedding of Cana without even knowing where the conclusion will lead him. So he told the story with love, with heartfelt, the message of consolation, that anyone can be, well, he come up with something, and by the end of the story, he come up with the conclusion. When you accept and when you trust in God, you can transform your life from water to wine. He says like, oops, this is good. Got to be some kind of inspiration. So, and everybody was, well, that speech, that little lecture was over in that prison. So he was leaving, saying goodbye to everyone, all the prisoners. And that man, who never spoke before, was always in the back of the room, looked at him, grabbed him at the arms, and straight to his eyes, said something. Hey, do you really believe everything that you just said? That we can change the course of our lives? Do you really believe this? Even someone like me condemned to hell? Because here's hell. And my friend answered, I truly believe this. And then this prisoner again says like, well, I think you don't know what you're saying. Because here is the beginning of my living hell. Sometimes I hear voices. They look like spirits. And they instigate me. They invite me to kill the ones that are in the same cells. And to kill me. To suicide after that. And this is so clear. And many times I felt like doing this. You know that I'm a murderer? And the guy said, this friend says like, my brother, I truly believe this. You have to trust in God. And then he grabbed his two arms. Then my friend looked straight inside his eyes. I truly believe this. Some kind of connection established that moment that we don't know. We cannot measure because talking in a philosophical way, it's difficult to explain. But we established some kind of link. And then that man, hardened heart, gave a little smile. And then a few years went by. The volunteering work at the prison was over. And my friend went on about his normal life, speaking at different centers, different places. And one day he was invited to speak at a very small Spiritist center he never visited in the suburb of Rio de Janeiro, in a very poor area of Rio de Janeiro. And upon arriving, he sat in the front row, waiting to meet the responsible director of that establishment, when a man approached him with kind eyes, smiling and saying, hello, Professor Cesar Reis. Do you remember me? And then Cesar Reis says like, is that you? And he says, yes, it's me. I heard your advice, and I thought a lot. I consider a lot. I can tell you it was very hard for me to follow the advice that you gave it to me. But I am here. I end my sentence with no job. I was hunger. But I remember the voice that you said, like, yes, you have to trust in God. And something there, I cried many, many nights in that cell. And I didn't kill anyone. And I started like being a volunteer in the prison. And actually I changed my life. And now I am here in this little place that we call Spiritist Center. You know, there's no PowerPoint, very simple, nothing fancy. But I am the president of this little place. And we are working with the ones that left prison. And I am trying to listen to voices that I started to hear 30 years ago, since the day that you gave me that advice. Because that day changed my life from water to wine. And I am here to try to tell you guys, and to try to tell me, that we can change our lives, and we can do better. Sometimes in this Spiritist movement, in our families, in our professions, are complicated because we hear many voices, and we have the feeling to kill someone. Of course, it's not killing with guns, but we feel like killing someone because it's simply they don't agree with the way that I like to be, that I like to do, or whatever. And let's try to hear a different kind of voice, a voice of fraternity. Because I remember that man that said once, "Blessed are the meek and the peace-loving, because they will inherit the earth." And this is a part of the Sermon of the Mountain that can be echoes in our hearts. And once we change the habit of thinking in a bad way, transforming our lives to be a little better, at least cultivating this habit of behaving better, I am pretty sure we will be better. And we will start listening. Little advice, sometimes as a form of an inspiration, sometimes as a form of advice. And we'll feel much more comfortable being part of this creation that God allows us to be. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.